In alchemy, there is a rule labeled as the law of equivalent exchange. And if stated, it means in order to gain something, you have to give something of equal value in return. And for me, making $306,000 last month came with the price of my health, my sleep, some friendships, and honestly part of some relationships. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I got there, what it cost me, and why I would never do this the same. Before we go about that, a quick little refresh for the dashboard before I show you guys exactly how Adderall did this. And the reason why I want to talk about the substance is because I genuinely believe it impacted me differently than most people. I genuinely thought that this most productive version of me would be sustainable, when in reality, this ended up being the less sustainable version of me. The only switch that this substance made for me was the resistance between I know what to do and doing it now simply collapsed. And the result from it was generating over $300,000 this month, but the costs were very physical, and not just physical, but also very socially destructive. So the whole useful part about this system is understanding that I can execute extremely, I can use it to build systems, but I needed to learn to adapt to keeping systems after slowing down. Really quick, I want to do a disclaimer. This medication was prescribed, it was supervised, and I'm not giving you advice to seek stimulants or think this is a productivity hack. Any health consequences should be taken seriously, and this is only my personal experience and not a universal claim. Now, before we talk about all the weird shit Adderall does, let's talk about all the pros that it genuinely brings. And this starts with the behavioral shift. This idea of procrastination that we all have, and not even just entrepreneurs, but people in general, have the idea that, hey, let's think, let's wait, and then let's reconsider to eventually execute. And what Adderall or even Vyvanse's job is to simply gap that. So now guess what? You have the idea and you execute, and now you're gathering data, and now you're finally adjusting, and now you're executing again. But one key thing I want you guys to remember: this does not make you smarter, it does not make you suddenly better at business. All it does is dramatically reduce these procrastination loops, and instead allows these feedback loops to become dramatically faster. So when these feedback loops finally align, and now you have a week's worth of work done in a day, and this is where this compression comes in. So instead of a normal week of identifying and thinking and building and then launching, and then finally at the end of the week we're checking things out, I can run and sprint all this in a day. In the morning we're already identified, by the late afternoon we're building, we're launching, and we're evaluating, and then by nighttime we're doing version 2. And nowadays, guys, there's so much resources available that the gap between successful and unsuccessful people is not about who has access to resources or more intelligence, but rather who can execute an idea faster and implement that vision quicker. That's what kills businesses that move slowly. Because guess what? Now that you're iterating faster, these tend to compound, and each of these cycles is going to end up teaching the next one. So now you're getting shorter cycles of learning, you're putting in more attempts, you have less emotional attachment, and now your speed becomes an advantage. And now I want to talk about what core pillars I ended up implementing this Adderall attention to, and that starts at the offer development. And you have core questions that your customers will always ask. Why should I buy this? Why should I buy it right now? Why should I buy multiple? And what objections even stop your customers to begin with? What are you doing to raise this perceived value? And what are you going to do to lower this perceived risk to your consumer? And because you're so wired, I was able to A/B split test tons of different variations, such as pricing, bundles, quantity breaks, and that didn't just allow me to develop a good offer, that allowed me to test a lot of A/B splits of what would work best with my avatar, not just that, but with my product. For example, when you're selling just one item, a lot of people think it's ideal to offer this free shipping, but the problem with that is you're not making your second bundle super enticing. So now when a customer goes to purchase 2, they see they're only getting $25 off if they buy 2. So in reality, they're not saving much, and they're still getting this free shipping. Instead, I've learned to adapt pay shipping, not because we need the extra money, but because it makes offer 2 look even more enticing. And guess what? Now they have even $50 off instead of this original $75 that was only $25 off. And now they get free shipping, so they see that bonus and that incentive, but guess what? Now they get free charms as well for their bracelet. So as simple as that might seem, now imagine that at a $20,000 a day scale where we love to test different combinations. I also learned to love and test tons of free shipping thresholds. Like, hey, spend $50, you'll get free shipping. Spend $75, now you get a free shipping plus a mystery gift box. So in reality, it's about implementing these incentives, but also knowing your margins in the back end, so you're not doing anything ridiculous. I also spent a lot of time testing testimonials, whether I wanted a carousel, whether I wanted testimonial widgets at the bottom, or whether I simply just wanted GIFs. A lot of operators or beginners just like to stick to one because they think it's working just because they're generating sales. But because I was so obsessed with perfection, I was able to test different variables and find out which one really worked best for us. And those variables apply to post-purchase offers or even upsells. I always love to mention, when you are doing a post-purchase upsell, please make it complement your hero product. A lot of people put a $20, $30, $40 item. That's a whole nother cycle for your consumer to think, do I want this? Is it worth this? Should I put my credit card again? Instead, if you offer something complementary that already does the selling for you, you don't have to go through the cycle again. Whether it presents the product better, whether it makes it look better. Like I mentioned the gift box earlier, when we do that as a post-purchase offer, we're saying, hey, you already got our bracelet. Now when you get the box, it'll look even prettier. So even if it's a lower AOV, you're getting way more orders in the long run versus something that's more expensive but less people are going to select. That is something I've learned to adapt and learn very well. Back to the free shipping and back to the urgency to not allow your customer to think too much. And always the classic buy more, save more. It was never just about the way you sell or price the product, but instead the positioning, the price, the product, the incentive, and not just that, but minimizing the risk for your customer. Top that off with urgency and not allowing them too much time to think about the deal, and that's what an offer really is. So these offer strategies, at the end of the day, is just an A/B testing machine, but we didn't just apply that to offers, but I learned how to apply it to checkout and landing page structuring, and not just that, but your website's creatives and just about anything that makes e-commerce, whether we come down to headlines and how we present the product, or how we present our hero sections to our best products. And arguably the most important one here was testing out new suppliers. And in this store, I tested a total of 3 suppliers. And the reason which I did is because almost none of them were capable of fulfilling hundreds and hundreds of orders right off the rip on a store that was freshly new. They weren't able to provide guaranteed 6 to 10 day shipping times worldwide with actual good quality factories. And around this time, actually, I went to New York for an e-commerce event, meeting up with some old friends where they actually gave me a good supplier commercial. And to be quite honest, I can't stress enough just how important a good supplier and 3PL team is, because at the end of the day, they're not random public suppliers. Instead, they're a team that can customize our products. They gave us mold, custom manufacturing, and not just that, but they handled all our sourcing and fulfillment. They have the ability to move our winning products into a USA-based warehouse for 1 to 3 day shipping. We no longer have to worry about the shittiest shipping times ever. If you guys want to use Commercive, I'll leave their link in the bio. I learned to use a lot of different product photos. Instead of using ripped ones or generic factories, you now have to start to invest into your own brand and hire UGC creators who can film, and not just that, but do photography on your products. This is going to end up building you a long brand with sustainability all year round. So this whole aggressive loop I was on for 2 weeks was, hey, I have a hypothesis, I do versions A and B, I run it to traffic, I decide to make decisions, and then from there, that's where we decide to test next. So these meaningful lessons to me showed me, hey, you can test meaningful differences. You don't have to change 20 things at once. And guess what? Little itty bitty fixes of things that improve general conversion rate eventually compound, even if it's 0.5%. So tiny gains are going to help and matter at scale, and understand that my goal was never about having a perfect product page, but instead having a continuous testing machine that always worked. And the last pro that I got out of this was this super important pillar I optimized so much hours to, and it was my checkout optimization, but also my cart optimization, because I did a lot of funnels, and not just that, but I looked for every single area that I can possibly reduce any friction points. So we understand how this e-com funnel goes. They see the ad, they go to the product page, they now add the product to cart, they check out, payment, and now you have your post-purchase upsell, blah, 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 new customer. So this is really where I took the time to study not just the best and biggest brands, but the ones closest to my niche that were already doing 8 to 9 figures. Because what's the point of studying other brands that have no correlation to you? You can run and test their offers and their methods, but if it's a completely different avatar and price points and deals, what good will that do you? So I looked at the competitors that aligned most with my product, and I attacked these friction points at the highest mark, such as, is anything confusing about the shipping? Is the paid shipping versus free shipping confusing my customers? Are there too many steps? Do I not have enough trust badges? Does it not say free shipping? Does it not say secure checkout? Is my mobile layout poor? And now this is where you are supposed to perform this whole funnel on your end to see if everything works smoothly when you are consistently making adjustments. Because things break. I remember I would be editing my cart and before you know it, it'd be completely lagged and customers can't check out because I was coding it. So these are all emphasized on things that I have been through. So if you can handle these friction points cleanly, example, having a good and clear return policy, you'll be able to avoid a lot of these mistakes in the long run. And a little tip for you guys here, stop making confusing bundle sections. A lot of you guys add irrelevant products or just trying to mash out AOV when it won't work long term because you're not actually understanding your avatar. Become your avatar, understand their needs, and understand what they would actually add on to see if it complements. Stop doing your weak checkout upsells. Because I promise guys, at a meaningful volume, at hundreds or thousands of orders a day, these tiny improvements will genuinely become real money. And I have a beautiful example for you guys. We're getting around 10,000 orders a month, and we have a protected shipping option for $3 that's automatically turned on. Our conversion rate on that is 80%. Only 20% of people turn that off. That means 3 times those 8,000 is $24,000 of extra pure profit in my pocket every time just because I did tiny improvements that eventually become real money. Because this compound effect is real. A small conversion rate gain or even a small AOV gain and mash those together with an upsell is going to have a significant improvement in your revenue and profit change. So from all of this that I just mentioned, what I really took from it was the execution. I immediately handled delayed things. Instead of being like, oh, that can wait till tomorrow, I don't even want to see it, I was excited to actually do it. And because I was, there was less emotional resistance to this boring work. And the killer phrase that a lot of future entrepreneurs die on is now, guess what guys, I said I will do it tomorrow, way less, and those moments never came. Therefore, there was less avoidance. So there was 2 ways to look about it. Yes, the execution was there. Yes, the work was getting done. But what bad was really coming out of it? Because if I'm going to show the good, I have to show the bad. And that is, it literally ruined me physically, mentally, and with a lot of family or even relationships near me. I would wake up at 8 a.m. and work the whole day until 5 a.m. And I would repeat that for literally 2 weeks when I was in this phase of just grinder founder mode. And this looked like me waking up from my bed, taking my medicine, taking a shower, and hopping right on this desk. And I would not move here until 5 a.m. starting at 8 a.m. If I did eat, I frequently forgot these meals. I lost track of time all the time, and when I would look at the time, I'd get really anxious and fearful because I'm like, the day is over and there's still so much to get done. And the truth is, that's not you talking, that's the urgency it's developing inside you. And every single task I accomplished, I didn't feel excited or proud of myself like I used to. Instead, I would finish it and I would instantly restart to a new one, which is absolutely something you do not want to do. You want to have balance in everything you do in life. And honestly, this balance was non-existent during those weeks. I had no work or life separation. Everything was simply work, 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 and I actually felt like a robot. I genuinely believe there was no one on this planet outworking me for those 2 weeks that consistently hard. And the worst part is when you stop working to talk to anyone or even eat, you feel so guilty. And if I can find the screenshot, I'll put it up here where I was averaging around 37 hours a day of screen time across 2 devices. And I remember sleeping for 4 to 5 hours and I couldn't even sleep because I woke up almost anxious to get to work, that there's things that have to be done. And it wasn't just because of this business, but because of other business that also rely on me. And that always led to this consistent business idea that never left my head, which was very unhealthy. So when you put it all together, guys, and me barely leaving my desk, always thinking about business, and I was guilty about when I was not working, and there was no separation about anything. And not just that, but my own health was being sacrificed, which goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of the law of equivalent exchange. If you want to have numbers and success like this, you have to give up things that you might be uncomfortable with. Now, this is an extreme example because when I do things, I do it to the extreme and highest level and I don't burn out. I can't say that for everyone. It could be you, but it also might not be you. So even though I had this peak productivity, I also noticed there was a very unhealthy obsession that became very difficult to distinguish between these two. And this is where I finally shifted back but with a little tweak. I kept a lot of what this stimulant gave me, but applied it with my natural drive anyway. So I kept a faster execution, less procrastination, better testing, better offers, and better creative processing because I knew, hey, if I can do this while on a stimulant, what's stopping me from doing it not on it? And so that mindset shift allowed me to actually progress like that. And so now I don't have these endless work days. I know how to balance better. I stopped treating sleep as optional. I stopped ignoring food and actually acted normal and came back to treating conversations as human and not as interruptions. Because sometimes, guys, more hours isn't about more success. It's about having high quality inputs and allowing these outputs to speak for themselves. So to cap it all off, guys, this $306,000 a month did not come from this pill. I already had prior business experience, advertising, offers, products, ideas, and I already had teams and capital. What it did do is show me my capacity to work while providing high quality inputs. And it showed me that I'm capable of executing very fast and very dramatically. And that this medication was only a part to show that it is possible. In 4 years of entrepreneurship, it was a very unique and interesting experience, but I wanted you guys to see the full transparency of what it looked like for me to hit multiple six figures a month. These were the pros and cons of Adderall showing me I can execute faster. See you guys on the next one.